Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go!
About 3 years into my career, when I landed a position as a junior account manager, I was thrilled to finally have my own office and direct line. Little did I know that phone line would become the bane of my existence. It was a typical Tuesday afternoon when I got the first call. I was knee-deep in a campaign proposal when my phone rang. I answered, introducing myself as the junior account manager. The caller, sounding worried, asked if I could send someone to fix their broken deep fryer. Confused, I thought maybe one of my coworkers was playing a prank on me. I politely explained to the caller that they had the wrong number and that this was a marketing firm. The caller seemed surprised, asking if this wasn't the repair line for Carl's Jr. I assured them it wasn't and suggested they must have dialed incorrectly. The caller insisted this was the number they were given for repairs. I told them that the number was incorrect and asked them to update their phone number listing. I hung up, slightly annoyed but mostly amused. The calls kept coming. At least once a week, sometimes more, I'd get a frantic Carl's Jr. employee on the line, desperate for someone to fix their broken equipment. Each time I patiently explained that they had the wrong number, that I didn't work for Carl's Jr., and that they needed to update their contact information. This went on for 6 long months. 6 months of interrupted meetings, derailed trains of thought, and increasing frustration. I tried everything. I asked to speak to managers. I suggested they contact their corporate office. I even considered changing my number. But nothing worked. One certain stressful day, after a big presentation had gone badly, I got another call. The caller frantically explained that their ice cream machine was down and they were getting complaints. They urgently asked if I could send someone right away. Something in me snapped. I was tired, irritated, and completely done with being Carl's Jr.'s unofficial helpline. In a moment of frustration, I told the caller I'd have someone there within an hour to fix it. The caller expressed immense gratitude, completely unaware of my deception. I hung up and I knew no one was coming, but I was past caring. I just wanted the calls to stop. A week later, it happened again. Another caller reported that their fryer was acting up and asked if they could get a technician. Once more, I assured them someone would be there within an hour to fix it. The caller thanked me, oblivious to the fact that no help was actually on the way. And surprisingly, it was. The calls stopped coming after that. I never heard from another Carl's Jr. employee again. Months passed and I almost forgot about the whole ordeal. That is, until I bumped into an old college friend who, as it turned out, now worked as a regional manager for Carl's Jr. We exchanged greetings and caught up on each other's lives. When I mentioned hearing about his job at Carl's Jr., he launched into a story about a strange situation they had recently faced. He explained how their repair line number had gotten mixed up, causing their restaurants to call the wrong number for repairs for months. He described the mess it created, with equipment breaking down and no one coming to fix it. They had lost a significant amount of money before figuring out what was going on. I tried to keep a straight face as guilt crept in. When I asked how they finally sorted it out, my friend shared the strange twist. He told me that whoever was getting the calls had started telling people they'd send someone to fix things, but no one ever showed up. This caused such chaos that corporate finally investigated and found the mistake in the contact list. I felt my face growing hot. I awkwardly agreed, trying to hide my discomfort. My friend went on to describe the nightmare of retraining all their staff and updating every restaurant's contact list. I nodded sympathetically. When he asked about my job, I deflected with a vague response about its ups and downs, adding that at least I didn't have to deal with broken, deep fryers. We both laughed, though for very different reasons. I felt bad about the trouble I'd caused, but a small part of me still felt justified. After all, I tried to tell them for months that they had the wrong number. From that day on, whenever my phone rang at work, I answered half expecting to hear about another broken piece of fast food equipment. But those calls never came again, and I was left with nothing but an unusual story and a newfound appreciation for the complexities of fast food operations. It starts with a hurricane hitting our little coastal town. I'm a local fisherman, born and raised here. My family's been in this town for generations, and our house by the beach has seen its fair share of storms. But this one was different. The meteorologists warned us it was going to be bad, and for once, they weren't exaggerating. As the storm approached, we had no choice but to evacuate. My wife, kids, and I packed up what we could and headed inland to stay with relatives. It was heart-wrenching to leave our home behind, not knowing if it would still be standing when we returned. The storm raged for days. We watched the news anxiously, seeing footage of flooding and destruction in our beloved town. When it was finally safe to return, we braced ourselves for the worst. Driving back into town was like entering a war zone. Trees were down everywhere, buildings were damaged, and debris littered the streets. When we approached our neighborhood, my stomach was in knots. But as we turned onto our street, I felt a wave of relief. Our house was still standing. That relief was short-lived. When we pulled up to our driveway, we noticed something odd. There was a fancy car parked outside that I'd never seen before, and through the windows, I could see lights on inside our house. My wife nervously asked if there were people in our house. I told her to stay in the car with the kids while I checked it out. I approached our front door cautiously, my heart pounding. When I tried my key, I found the locks had been changed. I knocked, and after a moment, the door opened. A well-dressed man stood there looking annoyed. He asked if he could help me. I explained that this was my house and asked who he was and what he was doing there. A woman's voice came from inside asking the man, who she called Ethan, who was at the door. Ethan stepped aside, revealing a woman lounging on my couch in my living room. Ethan claimed they were the new owners and that this was now their vacation home. I was shocked and told him that was impossible, explaining that this was my family's house and we had evacuated for the hurricane. The woman casually remarked that they had found the house abandoned and implied that it was now theirs by right of discovery. These people had broken into our home and were now claiming it as their own. I demanded that they leave immediately, stating that this was our property. Ethan arrogantly suggested that they had every right to be there, claiming they had improved the place by occupying it during the hurricane. He even said we should be thanking them. I was speechless. The audacity of these people was unbelievable. I told them I was going to call the police. The woman smugly replied that they would just tell the police I was trespassing. I stormed back to the car and told my wife what was happening. She was as shocked and angry as I was. We called the police, but to our dismay, they said it was a civil matter and they couldn't do much without a court order. Over the next few days, we learned that this entitled couple had done the same thing to several other houses in our neighborhood. They were millionaires from the city who had decided to claim the beachfront homes of hurricane victims. We tried reasoning with them, but they wouldn't budge. They even had the gall to start renovating our house, painting walls, and moving in new furniture. The situation got even more absurd when they actually filed a lawsuit against us for trespassing on what they now considered their property. That's when the media got wind of the story. Suddenly, our little town was in the national spotlight. News vans lined the streets, reporters were knocking on doors, and everyone wanted to hear about the millionaire couple who stole homes from hurricane victims. The public outrage was immediate and intense. Social media exploded with people sharing our story and condemning the couple's actions. Lawyers from all over the country offered to represent us pro bono. As the pressure mounted, cracks began to show in the couple's united front. One day, I overheard them arguing outside our house. The woman was saying that it wasn't worth it anymore because everyone hated them and suggested they should leave. Ethan stubbornly refused, saying he wouldn't let the peasants win and insisting they had rights. The woman pointed out the absurdity of their situation, reminding him that they had broken into people's homes. Their legal case fell apart quickly. The judge was visibly disgusted by their claims and threw out their lawsuit. But that wasn't the end of their troubles. It turned out that breaking into and occupying someone else's home is, in fact, very illegal. The district attorney decided to press criminal charges against the couple for burglary, trespassing, and vandalism. The final nail in their coffin came when one of their own lawyers disgusted by their behavior, leaked emails showing that the couple had planned this scheme well in advance of the hurricane. They had specifically targeted our town, waiting for a natural disaster to strike so they could swoop in and steal homes. The couple's reputation was in tatters. Their business partners distanced themselves, their social circle shunned them, and they became pariahs overnight. Last I heard, they were facing significant jail time and millions in fines and restitution. We got our home back. The community came together to help repair the damage from both the hurricane and the couple's unwanted renovations. It was a long process, but we're finally getting back to normal. I've always been a bit of a music nerd. My collection is massive, spanning genres from classical to death metal. I take pride in introducing people to new tunes, hoping they'll find something that resonates with them. That's why I was excited when my girlfriend asked me to help her with her music. We've been dating for a few months at that point. She was sweet, funny, and we clicked on many levels. But when it came to technology, she was completely lost. One day, she approached me with her iPhone in hand, looking frustrated. My girlfriend asked me if I could help her put some music on her phone, explaining that she couldn't figure out how to use iTunes. I happily agreed to help and asked her what kind of music she liked. She vaguely replied that she liked the usual stuff, mostly pop. I spent hours copying my entire music library to her computer. It was thousands of songs covering every genre imaginable. I figured she'd find plenty to enjoy. After finishing the transfer, I told her that I'd copied everything over and asked what songs she wanted on her phone. She scrolled through the list, her brow furrowed in concentration. Then she looked up at me. She told me she thought she had figured out what she wanted and asked if I could put those songs on her phone. I looked at her selection. 23 songs. Out of thousands, she'd chosen just 23. I was a bit taken aback, but I didn't say anything. To each their own, right? A few more months passed, and things were going well. Or so I thought. One day I noticed her acting strange. She was constantly on her phone, but whenever I came near, she'd quickly hide the screen. My gut told me something was off. When she went to take a shower, I did something I'm not proud of. I checked her phone. What I found made my heart sink. She was having an emotional affair with her ex-boyfriend. The same ex she'd sworn she never interacted with. I confronted her about it when she got out of the shower. I told her I had seen her messages with her ex and asked what was going on. She reacted with shock, accusing me of invading her privacy by going through her phone. I told her not to deflect and reminded her that she had told me she never spoke to him. She tried to argue that she had never said that, claiming she had only said she never spoke with him and that they were just texting. Her attempt to split hairs just made me angrier. I decided then and there that I was done, but I wasn't going to leave without a parting gift. That night, after we'd gone to bed, I snuck down to her home office. I logged onto her computer and went straight for her music library. I deleted every song I'd given her except for one, Never Gonna Give You Up, by Rick Astley. I copied that song 22 times, renaming each copy to match the songs on her playlist. Hey Ya became Hey Rick. Wheel in the Sky turned into Wheel in the Sky. Keeps on Rickrolling. I chuckled to myself as I worked, imagining her confusion when she next tried to listen to her music. Once I was done, I synced everything with her phone. My masterpiece was complete. Weeks passed, and I found myself wondering how long it took her to figure out what I'd done. Did she get frustrated every time she tried to play a song, only to hear Rick Astley's voice? Did she have to ask her ex for help, admitting that she couldn't even manage her own music? But then, something unexpected happened. About a month after our breakup, I received a text from an unknown number. The text asked if I was the guy who had rickrolled his ex's entire music library. I replied asking who it was. The person identified themselves as Karen's best friend and told me that Karen had told them what happened. They admitted that they thought it was genius and shared that Karen had been going crazy trying to fix her music. They even revealed that Karen had to ask her ex for help, but he couldn't figure it out either. My little prank had worked even better than I'd hoped. I responded saying I was glad she was enjoying her new and improved playlist. Karen's friend replied that Karen was actually furious but they thought she deserved it. They added that what Karen did to me was messed up and that they just wanted to let me know that my revenge was appreciated, at least by them. That text made my day. Not only had my plan worked, but it had also exposed Karen's true colors to her friends. And every time I hear "never gonna give you up" on the radio, I remember the day I rickrolled my way out of a bad relationship. I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes when I was just a kid. It was tough managing my blood sugar levels, especially during my teenage years. I had a few close calls with severe hypoglycemia, and that's when my doctor suggested I look into getting a diabetic alert dog. After months of research and waiting, I finally got matched with my service dog. He's a beautiful golden retriever trained to detect changes in my blood sugar levels through scent. Having him by my side has been life-changing. I feel more confident going about my daily life, knowing he's there to alert me if my sugar levels drop dangerously low. So, there I was, just another Tuesday afternoon picking up some groceries at the local supermarket. My service dog was right beside me, wearing his official vest that clearly identified him as a working animal. I was in the produce section checking out some apples when I heard a high-pitched squeal behind me. I turned around to see a little boy, probably around 6 or 7, excitedly pointing at my dog and asking his mother if he could pet it. His mother, who I'd soon come to know as Karen, was standing next to him with a look of entitlement plastered across her face. She immediately told her son he could go ahead and pet the dog. Before I could even react, Karen was already pushing her son towards my service dog. I quickly stepped between them and explained that this was a service dog who was working and couldn't be petted. Karen scoffed at me, dismissing my concerns and insisting it was just a dog that her son wanted to pet. I tried to make her understand that he wasn't just a pet, but a medical alert dog who needed to stay focused on his job. Karen rolled her eyes and questioned what could be so important that her son couldn't pet a dog for 2 seconds. I explained that the dog was trained to alert me when my blood sugar levels were dangerous, which was crucial for my health. Karen then declared that if the dog was so special, her son should have it. She claimed he had been begging for a dog for months and deserved it more than I did. I was stunned by her demand. Karen insisted that I hand over the dog, stating that her son needed emotional support, which she deemed far more important than whatever I thought I needed it for. I refused, telling her that's not how service dogs work. Karen's voice rose as she expressed her outrage. She demanded to know if I knew who she was, insisting that her son was special and deserved the dog more than I ever could. By this point, other shoppers were starting to stare. I could feel my face burning with embarrassment, but I stood my ground. I apologized but reiterated that the answer was no, explaining again that the dog was specially trained for my medical needs and asking her to leave us alone. Karen then started shrieking, accusing me of stealing the dog from her son and threatening to call the police. True to her word, she whipped out her phone and dialed 911. While we waited for the police to arrive, Karen continued to berate me, telling anyone who would listen that I was a horrible person for denying her precious child his rightful dog. When the police finally showed up, I explained the situation calmly. I showed them my service dog's documentation and explained my medical condition. The officers quickly realized what was going on and told Karen that she was in the wrong. They told her that this was a registered service animal and that it was illegal to interfere with a service dog or demand its removal. They warned her to leave me alone. Karen insisted that her son needed the dog. The police officer told her that her son was not entitled to someone else's medical equipment and warned that if she continued to harass me, they would have to take further action. Karen stomped off, dragging her confused son behind her. I finished my shopping and tried to put the whole incident behind me, but a week later, I received a notice in the mail. Karen was suing me, claiming that I had no right to a service dog because her child was special and needed it more. Thankfully, the judge saw right through her ridiculous claims. Not only was her case thrown out, but she was ordered to pay my legal fees and fined for wasting the court's time. The judge also mandated that she attend a class on the Americans with Disabilities Act and the importance of service animals. As a final cherry on top, it turned out that Karen's tantrum in the grocery store had been recorded by several bystanders. The videos went viral, and she quickly became known as the service dog Karen in our town. I heard she even lost her job over it. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.